Chapter 595 to 598. Akatsuki Organization's Base. Yes. Keep this rhythm. Pay attention to the minute movements of my muscle with your Sharingan. Using this, you will be able to predict my next actions. Idiot. Why would you even use fire-style jutsu in this situation? It's purely a waste of chakra reserves. Chakra reserves are the most important thing for a shinobi. Always keep one very important thing in your mind, kid. The release of any ninjutsu must be done only when the situation requires, and it must always be used along with corresponding tactics. If you haven't formulated corresponding tactics that you plan to use after the jutsu is released, then all you are doing is exposing your own flaws to the enemy and wasting your chakra for nothing. On the training ground, Shinichi sternly guided Sasuke while casually parrying his offensive, and strangely enough, Sasuke didn't argue at all. He took all of Shinichi's words into serious consideration and tried to implement them into his tactics. Even if Sasuke was very tired and sweaty, even if he had several injuries and bruises all over his body, there was no sign of complaint or dissatisfaction on his face. In fact, he seemed genuinely happy at this moment. Since Shinichi actually started to train him, Sasuke has finally understood that all his previous combat training with his Nissan and Shisui-san in Konoha were really just trivial shinobi games, and neither of the two was being serious for even a second, because if they were serious, then Sasuke wouldn't even be able to stand against them even for a second. Although Sasuke can somewhat understand their reasoning, knowing that they were just playing and he believed that they were doing serious combat training, made Sasuke flushed in embarrassment. Sasuke can't even remember how many times he has boasted about his actual combat training session to Naruto and also to Neji, and how well he fought against his Nissan and Shisui-san. But now that he understood that his Nissan Itachi and Shisui-san didn't even take him seriously, made him feel a bit unhappy. Humph. Nissan and Shisui-san always treat me like a child. When I return home, I will make them take me seriously. As soon as this thought emerged in his mind, Sasuke gritted his teeth and increased his offensive speed. He wanted to prove to his Nissan Itachi and Shisui that he was no longer just a child, but has grown into a true shinobi. On the side, Neji looked at Sasuke's training under Uchiha Shinichi's guidance with a somewhat complicated expression. Neji didn't know whether Sasuke himself is extremely talented or Shinichi Uchiha Shinichi's training is just that effective, but Neji could see the speed with which Sasuke progressed, and it made even him feel amazing. If it was before and Neji and Sasuke fought, then it would either result in a draw or Neji's win. Sasuke would hardly ever manage to gain the upper hand. After all, the combination of Byakugan with gentle fist taijutsu style is extremely deadly at the stage of Genin and Chunin, and Sasuke's body just couldn't keep up with Neji's speed. But in the past 2 weeks, since Sasuke started to train under Uchiha Shinichi, the duels between him and Neji are no longer so one-sided. Now Sasuke manages to fight equally, and sometimes even manages to come out on top. This has made Neji feel a certain sense of crisis, because at this rate, it won't be very long before Sasuke will be able to completely overtake him. Back when he was in the village, Neji was always told by his father and several other clansmen that his talent is not inferior to anyone, and perhaps he is the most talented Hyuga to have been born as of yet. The only thing that restrained him and his fate of becoming a great shinobi is the cage bird curse Junjutsu on his forehead that made him a member of the branch family of the Hyuga clan, who only lives in order to protect the members of the main family of the Hyuga clan. Although Neji didn't realize what this meant until a few months ago, regardless, he was still willing to work hard and become a shinobi like his sensei, who, despite being a member of the branch family, became a great shinobi. But after he was taken away by the Akatsuki, and after he witnessed Sasuke's rapid growth in front of him, Neji began to doubt whether this is truly possible or not. Can I really become like Sensei? Neji's complex state of mind was not known by anyone, as others present in the room were still focused on Sasuke. The masked Obito, who was also watching the training from the sidelines, was surprised at Sasuke's growth. He is obviously aware of the fact that Sasuke managed to awaken his Sharingan at quite an early age. But back when he heard it, he didn't really care too much about it. After all, currently there is no shortage of even the Mangekyu Sharingan awakeners, let alone a kid who has awakened Sharingan at an early age. Just being a genius doesn't deserve his attention. What's more, even if Sasuke had the potential to perhaps awaken the Mangekyu Sharingan in the future, Obito didn't care about him that much because it would take at least 6 to 7 years for that to happen, and by then the project Tsuki no Mi will more than likely be completed. So initially Obito didn't have all that interest in Sasuke. But after witnessing Sasuke's rapid growth in the past 2 weeks in Shinichi's training, Obito suddenly felt that perhaps this child is indeed worth training. If anything, he can be used to control the Uchiha clan inside Konoha. If Uchiha clan can be controlled, then perhaps Uchiha Shisui, who deeply cares about the clan and the village, can also be controlled, and having Uchiha Shisui with them as an ally would be very helpful in fighting against the Amatsukami organization. While Obito was brewing a nasty plan, Shinichi on the training field pushed back Sasuke and then said lightly, "All right, that's enough for today. Let's stop here. Now take a rest and reflect on every mistake that you made today to make sure that you don't repeat them." "I understand." Sasuke nodded, then said, "Thank you, Shinichi-san." Sasuke's tone was very sincere when he expressed his heartfelt gratitude to Shinichi. No one is clearer about his improvements and growth in the past 2 weeks. And because he understands this, Sasuke has also come to believe that Uchiha Shinichi, who is also a Mangekyu Sharingan awakener, is perhaps the best teacher for him. Uchiha Shinichi is at least much more suitable for training him compared to his Nisan Itachi and Shisui-san, because all they do is spoil him. While Shinichi, on the other hand, is extremely harsh and trains him seriously. Shinichi also has no qualms about ruthlessly beating him while training, and this fact only stimulates Sasuke to do better. Realizing this, Sasuke couldn't help but suddenly thought about this to himself with a strange expression. It's weird. Why would I like harsh training, scolding, and ruthless beating? It's weird. Am I sick or something? The thing is, everyone, be they shinobi trainees, needs to be taught according to their individual aptitudes and differences. And the fact that different teachers have different aptitudes and teaching styles cannot be denied either. So, we can say that if teachers of different styles teach the same student, then the final result will obviously be very different. Take Uchiha Sasuke, for instance. Compared to the majority of his peers, he has strong learning, comprehension, analysis, and accepting aptitude. As such, he can accept things at a faster pace. Coupled with the honor and the sense of pride that comes with the Uchiha identity, gives him a temperament and desire to perform better than others and outshine them. With all these characteristics of his, Sasuke needs a teacher who can convince him of their ability so that Sasuke's pride and arrogance don't come in the way. Therefore, Orochimaru and Shinichi are the types who are perfect match for Sasuke. But Uzumaki Naruto, on the other hand, is completely different. Naruto's learning, comprehension, analysis, and accepting aptitude is not that high. As such, he is unable to accept things as fast as Sasuke and many others among his peers. To make him understand things, one needs to break them down into very basics and then teach him in a manner that he will be able to grasp with relative ease. Although his potential can be said to be higher than Sasuke's, he needs a teacher who is willing to sit down with him and help him develop his potential step by step. Therefore, only teachers like Jiraiya are best suited to teach him, and Orochimaru is unable to connect on that level with him. Whether consciously or subconsciously, Sasuke realizes this fact and feels that Uchiha Shinichi is suitable for teaching him, and because Shinichi was willing to teach him, So Sasuke was also very serious in training and didn't complain once about Shinichi's harsh training methods. With all these thoughts in his mind, Sasuke picked up the dry towel from the side, and while drying off the sweat, he pondered over all the mistakes he made during today's training session, and also thought of the alternatives that he could have used that would have given a better result. Shinichi also walked to the side, and while lightly glancing at Sasuke, who was breathing heavily, he thought to himself, maybe he will be able to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan as well if he suffers right emotional trauma. As far as Shinichi is aware, awakening Mangekyo Sharingan does require emotional trauma, but that's not the only determining factor, as there are other factors involved as well. The higher the talent, the less stimulation required, and higher the probability of awakening those eyes. As for whether he is correct or not is not something he knows, but probably that's how things work, according to him at least. Anyway, all these things aside, as Shinichi walked over towards them, Neji firstly respectfully addressed Shinichi and then asked earnestly, "Shinichi-san, is it possible for you to train me as well?" Upon hearing Neji's request, Shinichi frowned slightly. In Shinichi's opinion, Neji's talent is also very good, but the thing is, unlike Sasuke, Neji is not an uchiha, so Shinichi is not sure if he will be able to teach Neji. Moreover, Shinichi is also not an experienced teacher, and he is also not aware of how to teach him the techniques of the Hyuga clan, so obviously he won't be able to teach Neji. And more importantly, Neji is Hyuga Kuroto's disciple. As such, Shinichi has to also consider the possibility that Kuroto may have some special plan for Neji. And without that clarification, Shinichi obviously wouldn't try to indiscriminately teach Neji as it might affect Kuroto's plans. Neji didn't know Shinichi's complex thought, but seeing Shinichi's frowned expression, he realized that he was being a bit too impatient as well as disrespectful towards the other person, and quickly apologized. "Please forgive me. I was a bit rude just now. Teaching others and taking them as disciples is a very sacred act in the shinobi world. The relationship between a master and their disciples is like a relationship between parent and a child, and knowledge of jutsu and other shinobi arts is generally only shared with the disciples. Of course, being taught clan techniques and other jutsu from the inheritance of the clan is still possible, but it is only possible for those who are part of the clan, as, for the others, it is completely impossible. This is also the reason why the children of the civilians, who don't have any major background or don't show enough talent in their academy years or aren't particularly lucky, always stay far behind the children from the major shinobi clans. So the fact that Neji openly asked to be taught from Uchiha Shinichi without any regard to his and the other person's identity was indeed disrespectful, not only towards Shinichi, but also towards Kuroto, because by asking to be taught by Shinichi means expressing dissatisfaction towards Kuroto's teaching. Shinichi shook his head and explained, "It's not that I don't want to teach you. It's just that I don't know what to teach you and how to teach you, as I don't have much knowledge about the taijutsu techniques that the Hyuga clan practices." Neji nodded again and apologized. "Yes, I understand. I was being reckless earlier." Then immediately stepped aside calmly. But the disappointment on his face was hard to conceal, and the frustration within him grew. Seeing Sasuke progressing extremely fast, while him remaining still at the same point, made Neji feel more and more frustrated, and he didn't know what to do. Seeing Neji's expression filled with disappointment, Shinichi felt a little guilty and sighed helplessly. The other side of the training field. After the training for the day was over, the masked Obito and Zetsu, who were observing the training, left that area as White Zetsu asked, "It's been quite a few days since you gave those tasks to the two informants in Konoha. By now, they might have collected some information." Masked Obito thought about White Zetsu's words and nodded. "Yes, they should have gathered at least something useful by now." Then added, "Let one of your clones go to Konoha and check." White Zetsu nodded, and while transmitting instruction through the tree roots into the ground, he said, "I hope they have gathered something useful." It makes me really excited just thinking about it. Konohagakure Shimura Danzo's base of operation. After Danzo finalized all the 7 Kekkei Genkai that he wants to absorb through Chimera Jutsu, Homusubi and Orochimaru began to make adjustments in the Chimera Jutsu on their part, and also started finalizing the last part, that is designing the ritual ceremony. This part of the work was done together, and in the huge laboratory, both Orochimaru and Tsukihi were busy with their respective work. After a long time, Orochimaru, who was busy with the task at hand, turned his neck and shifted his gaze to Homusubi at the other end of the laboratory and asked curiously, "Should I call you Homusubi, or by your original name, perhaps?" Homusubi didn't turn her head and said in a chilling tone, "I think you are more than wise to figure that by yourself." Orochimaru chuckled. "I see. Homusubi it is." Then added in a deep tone, "Homusubi, aren't you worried in the slightest?" Homusubi frowned and asked in confusion, "Worried about what?" Orochimaru looked down for a moment, then lifted his head and said with an extremely serious expression, "You should be more clear about all this. In regards to what we are doing, the risks. Aren't you worried in the slightest that we won't be able to control Shimura Danzo and he will get out of hand? Moreover, given his ambitions." In the beginning, Orochimaru also wanted to use Shimura Danzo as a suitable pawn and lab rat in order to improve the Chimera Jutsu. But as he delved deeper and deeper into the research of this forbidden jutsu, coupled with the high-end knowledge and understanding that he recently gained from Homusubi, Orochimaru's initial inherent concepts were broken, and with that changed perspective he analyzed the depth of Chimera Jutsu, and he was literally shocked when he realized what this project actually entails, and this scared him. Yes, even someone like Orochimaru started to feel a little scared at the thought of letting Danzo use this jutsu to acquire 7 Kekkei Genkai. It wouldn't have been that big of a problem if Danzo didn't have such a character and ambition, but that guy wants to unite the entire shinobi world, and for that, he can do almost anything. This makes him an extremely dangerous and unstable existence. Homusubi glanced at Orochimaru and said lightly, "You are too worried." "I am too worried." Orochimaru frowned and said, "Don't you realize, if your theories are correct, which they are, and if Danzo succeeds in the ritual ceremony, he will acquire 7 Kekkei Genkai. That's full 7 Kekkei Genkai. He would be unstoppable by then. And once he succeeds, we will be the ones he will come after at that time. Doesn't this scare you in the slightest?" Sharingan, Wood Release, Crystal Release, Dark Release, Swift Release, Boil Release, and Storm Release. Success in acquiring these 7 Kekkei Genkai would mean successful fusion of all the 7 chakra natures. The fusion of 2 chakra natures and 3 chakra natures alone is so powerful. What would happen if all these 7 chakra natures are fused? The more Orochimaru thinks about it, the more he feels that they are trying to step into the territory of gods. And if all the 7 chakra natures really merge within Danzo, then he will definitely become an existence no inferior to a god. A god created by humans. A god created by science. Orochimaru feels that calling it Project Godhood, a project of creating a god, seems more reasonable. 7 different Kekkei Genkai, 7 different chakra natures. What will happen after they fuse together? We are not just trying to combine 7 Kekkei Genkai into one person to make him a perfect shinobi. No, it's much more than just that. What we are trying to do by fusing the 7 chakra natures is literally trying to create a god, Orochimaru muttered in an absent-minded tone. Hearing Orochimaru, Homusubi's eyes widened in surprise. She couldn't help but look at him in admiration and think to herself, I suppose I shouldn't be too surprised. It's Orochimaru Sensei, after all. After months of research on the Chimera Jutsu, and because of the new theories that he has learned while working with Homusubi, Orochimaru has gradually started to realize the final result that this project actually points to. A Kekkei Genkai is generally the fusion of two different chakra natures, and Kekkei Tota, which is much more powerful compared to Kekkei Genkai, is the fusion of three different chakra natures. So the question arises, what will be the result of the fusion of all the 7 different chakra natures? Perhaps nobody in the shinobi world has ever pondered over this question, and this is nothing strange. A world where even the very basic Kekkei Genkai is very rare and highly valuable, and Kekkei Tota that is only a level advanced has only appeared once and made people fear deeply. Would anyone even think of the realm of Kekkei Mora? Top researchers like Hiruko and Shino, who were researching Chimera Jutsu, have never considered it. Heck, even Danzo's subordinates haven't stopped disputing over the issue of which Kekkei Genkai is stronger and which two Kekkei Genkai will complement each other and produce superior power, never once bothered to think of the overall changes that will happen once 7 Kekkei Genkai integrate together and start to fuse all the 7 different chakra natures. So how can ordinary people who have had no contact with such deep knowledge think about it? Limited by his vision, even Orochimaru wasn't able to see that far at first, and similar to everyone else, he too was thinking that the end result of this project will be the integration of Kekkei Genkai through the Chimera Jutsu, which wouldn't be that different from Hiruko's case. However, after his concepts were refreshed and he was introduced to all these new theories, he gradually realized that the integration of 7 Kekkei Genkai is perhaps just the first stage, and there are several levels to which this ritual will proceed, which will be completely different from Hiruko's case. And unlike Hiruko, here it will be an all-round transcendence. As he thought of this, Orochimaru's eyes widened in shock. He felt that he has finally figured out the true ambitions of the Amatsukami organization, something that the entire shinobi world, including the 5 great shinobi villages and the Akatsuki organization, has been trying to figure out for the past few years. Orochimaru felt that he has finally realized it. With a shocked expression on his face, Orochimaru looked at Homusubi and questioned, "The true goal of Amatsukami is to create a god." Homusubi didn't expect that Orochimaru will even realize this, and she had to commend him for his ingenuity. But even if Orochimaru has figured it out, she was not willing to confirm it. So all she did was continue to do her work and completely ignored Orochimaru's question. Obviously, Orochimaru also knew that he wouldn't get the answer so easily, but it didn't matter to him because he was sure that his guess is extremely accurate. So instead of asking this question, he asked something else. Isn't a Matsukami organization least bit afraid of self-harm while playing with fire? If Danzo reaches that transcendent state before others and before anyone from the Amatsukami, perhaps not even your leader Yama will be able to stop him. Homusubi chuckled. How could it be that easy? What do you mean? Orochimaru was puzzled. He didn't understand why Homusubi was so certain of Danzo's failure because as far as Orochimaru sees, the chances of Danzo's success are relatively high. Homusubi shrugged. If it was really that easy to become a transcendent being, why would we bother to use Danzo? Partial success is still relatively possible, but complete success? It's impossible. There's just no chance. Homusubi is completely certain of this. Because for complete success, the fusion of flesh and blood is just the beginning. It is neither the core part of the project godhood nor the end. The ritual that Danzo will be undergoing still has a fatal flaw, and this flaw is related to the realm of the soul. It is quite difficult to explain what soul truly is and what is the true essence of soul. But one thing is certain, and it is the fact that soul and chakra are interlinked. In other words, the soul can carry chakra, and vice versa is also true. and unless a soul is completely disintegrated, it will never fade away. So it can also be concluded that soul is eternal, and it will always carry chakra with it. Although Chimera Jutsu is capable of fusing flesh and blood, it cannot fuse the soul, so it can also be said that it cannot completely integrate chakra carried within the soul. That is to say, no matter to what extent Chimera Jutsu is improved, and no matter how advanced the ritual is designed, it will not result in complete integration unless the issue of the soul is resolved firsthand. This also means that the end results in Danzo's case will only be a partial success. The impurity that exists in the form of a foreign soul will become a problem that will never be solved in the integration process, and no matter how Danzo tries, he just can't make up for this flaw. In fact, not just Danzo. No one can solve this problem unless the target of absorption themselves are soulless. For instance, clones that Kuroto plans to use in his ritual ceremony. The current Orochimaru obviously doesn't realize this problem. He who has repeatedly used the forbidden technique of corpse soul reincarnation without any reservations has yet to figure out the importance of a clean soul for transcendence. Danzo, who will absorb all the subjects, along with their souls, will also face this problem. So his transcendence will be affected. What's more, the problem of foreign is not the only issue. There are other problems. In Danzo's case, there is another factor that is a restraint on his success. His aging physique is a fatal problem that lowers down his success rate. For the ritual to succeed, the core physique of the person absorbing another's flesh and blood should be very strong. After all, even if through Chimera Jutsu, one would be absorbing the flesh and blood of 5 people into his body. If the physique is not strong enough to bear the burden of that wear and tear during the absorption process, then how will that person survive? Danzo, who is physically old and weak, will not be able to bear that burden. So, the probability of success in the ritual and the chances that he will be able to reach the Kekemora state is very, very, very low. In fact, there is a big question mark whether he will be able to survive the ritual ceremony. In fact, even Kuroto, who is using specifically created clones that don't have any problem regarding foreign souls, is not completely certain of achieving godhood, and the probability of success is only as low as 10%. So how can Danzo manage to reach that state with all those flaws coming his way? The path to awakening Kekemora is very, 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 very difficult, and from beginning to end, there have only been 2 people in the shinobi world who have reached this realm. Therefore, from beginning to end, Homusubi never worried that Danzo would reach that realm because the probability of it happening is infinitely close to 0. Even if all his luck comes into play, at best he will reach a state of semi-fusion with severe dangers hidden in his body, quite similar to Hiruko. And more likely, he will either die during the ritual, or he will become an unpredictable monster with multiple souls competing for dominance. Frowning over Homusubi's words, Orochimaru asked curiously, "You don't seem too optimistic about Danzo's rate of success. Why is that the case?" Homusubi shrugged. "I only believe in possibilities that are strictly based on facts. And the fact is that Hiruko, who survived the ritual ceremony, was very vulnerable and was defeated so easily. So how can Danzo be any different? Although we have made many improvements in everything, some things just can't be changed. As such, even if I have higher expectations from this ritual, they are just some expectations, not anything else." Hiruko was very vulnerable? I am afraid that only the members of Amatsukami would say so. Orochimaru muttered with a bitter smile and muttered to himself, "Maybe it's just me being too scared. And perhaps you are indeed correct, the realm of God, that transcended state. It should not be so easy for us mortals to step in." Homusubi didn't comment on this and asked something else. "By the way, how is Danzo's progress of capturing the 5 targets he selected?" Orochimaru replied, "I have heard that it's going quite well. From what I know, he has already captured 3 of them. Although Root Subdivision has been abolished, Danzo still has a lot of manpower under him. And since there are many wandering shinobi in the shinobi world, so as long as their intelligence is collected effectively, capturing them is not that big of a deal for a team of trained shinobi. Homusubi nodded. As expected, his speed is quite good. Then asked, "When does he intend to perform the ritual ceremony?" Orochimaru shrugged. "It's hard to say," and added, "but what I can be sure of is that it won't be any time before he sits on the seat of Konoha's Hokage." "Not before taking the position of Konoha's Hokage?" Tsukihi's face under the Homusubi mask frowned. Although these days she has mainly focused her attention on improving the Chimera Jutsu and tries not to distract herself from any other problem, this doesn't mean she is completely ignorant of Danzo's recent movements. After all, Naomi had made sure to deliver all the intelligence she finds to Tsukihi, so most of Danzo's actions are in Tsukihi's watch. It's just that Tsukihi hasn't yet confirmed whether Danzo plans to use a coup d'etat in order to force himself to take the position of Konoha's Hokage, or whether he wants to use political means to initiate the populace's distrust in Sandaime Hokage and make Sarutobi Hiruzen resign from his position. Judging from common sense, Danzo is unlikely to launch a coup d'etat against Sandaime Hokage, because in that case, Sandaime has a clear-cut advantage against him. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade Haim are present in the village, and Danzo's men won't be able to rival the high-end combat power of the two Sannin. Moreover, if Danzo uses force, other shinobi clans won't sit by on the sidelines, and most, if not all, will choose to support Sandaime Hokage. Therefore, the only means left that Danzo could use in his favor are political maneuvering and gaining the support of the daimyo of the Land of Fire. After pondering a little over this, Homusubi warned Orochimaru, "I don't care what plans you and Danzo are making, but I want to let you know that Amatsukami has received a commission to save the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi and the heiress of the Hyuga clan. And since they are both in your hands, so their safety must be ensured. Otherwise, Amatsukami will be left with no choice but to intervene and bring them back to Konoha. Am I clear? To complete all the improvements in the Chimera Jutsu as soon as possible, Homusubi has maintained a cooperative relationship with Orochimaru and chose not to rescue Naruto and Hinata despite being aware of where they are. Of course, this is also to see if Naruto can really learn Senjutsu, but more of it is because Homusubi doesn't want to have a conflict with Orochimaru at this point in time. After all, conflict with him will affect the development of the Chimera Jutsu. Naturally, this doesn't mean that she was willing to let Orochimaru do whatever he wants with the two of them. Hinata aside, the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi, Uzumaki Naruto is much more important, and his safety cannot be compromised at any cost," Orochimaru said with a smile. "Don't worry. I don't find them interesting enough to do anything to them. In fact, they are now important chips that Danzo plans to use while seizing the position of Konoha's Hokage. As I expected, Danzo really plans to enact a drama of rescuing Naruto and Hinata from Orochimaru's hands to curry the favor of the Hyuga clan as well as other shinobi clans," thought Homusubi upon understanding the context behind Orochimaru's words. Reaching this conclusion, Homusubi no longer wasted any time while engaging in conversation, and after quickly finishing her part of today's work, she immediately left the laboratory. After changing back into the main body, Kuroto made his way back towards the village while pondering over his next plan. Obviously, as Homusubi worked with Danzo and Orochimaru, she didn't stop her other plans. So during this time, she also made sure to continue to visit the Ankor Vantians several times in order to check up on Karin and Gaara's progress and also to check the status of the Fujin clone. Following the blood transfusion, Kuroto has confirmed several times and reached the conclusion that the Fujin clone is currently stable, and the disintegration of the cells has halted temporarily. Although this is not a permanent solution, this is still quite satisfactory for the time being, and for this reason, Kuroto finalized that he will be using the Fujin clone for the wind chakra nature during the absorption ritual. It's just that a problem has arisen because of this. The strength of the Fujin clone is quite high when compared to the Tsukihi clone without the eternal Mangekyu Sharingan, and Suijin clone, therefore, Kuroto needs to increase the strength of both these clones in order to reach a balanced state. Of course, this is not an imminent problem for Kuroto, and he can continue to train the Suijin clone and Tsukihi clone in the future. What's imminent for Kuroto at this point in time is to start the planning for the next clone, since the development of Fujin clone has also been completed. No way. Akatsuki organization is like a vicious dog chasing behind him, to the point that Kuroto can't let down his guard for even a moment. Nagato's rapid increase in strength has posed too much pressure on Kuroto, and Kuroto has no idea when will Nagato make his move, so he has to do everything possible in order to speed up his project of godhood. To do so naturally, the development of all the clones is very important. And since Kuroto already has 3 clones ready, the 4th clone has become the object of his attention. Now the only chakra natures left for Kuroto to use are Earth chakra nature, Lightning chakra nature, and finally, the Yang chakra nature. Without a doubt, Yang chakra nature clone is the most difficult because there are too many technical difficulties involved in it. As such, Kuroto thinks that Yang clone should be created at last. So, the options left for him to choose are Earth chakra nature and the Lightning chakra nature. Of these 2 chakra natures, Lightning chakra nature is the most unstable, so the difficulty of creating the Lightning chakra clone is only second to the Yang chakra clone. Compared to Lightning chakra clone, creating Earth chakra nature clone will be relatively easier, and using the principle of doing easy things first and difficult things later, the only option left for Kuroto to choose is the clone of the Earth chakra nature. Earth chakra nature. Clone it is, muttered Kuroto in the decision. Now that the Earth chakra nature clone has been decided, the next issue is, whose cells should I use to create the Earth chakra nature clone? Based on Kuroto's knowledge, there are 2 Kekkei Genkai that he can choose from. First is Lava Release, a Kekkei Genkai, which is the result of the fusion of Earth chakra and Fire chakra nature. What's unique about Lava Release is that it is a Kekkei Genkai with several variants that vary with the users, and each user has their own unique method of using the Lava Release Kekkei Genkai. Roshi, the current Jinchuriki of Yonbi, uses molten rock in solid and liquid form. Terumi Mei, the current Anbu commander of Kirigakure, uses acidic mud. Kurotsuchi, the granddaughter of Sandaime Tsuchikage Onoki, uses corrosive quicklime and volcanic ash, while Dodai, the attendant of the Yondaime Raikage, uses vulcanized rubber form of lava release. So it is a very good Kekkei Genkai, and Kuroto will have all these options in his hands if he chooses the lava release. Moreover, there are also quite a lot of users of lava release, so obtaining the cells of the user of lava release wouldn't be that big of a deal either. Obtaining Terumi Mei's cells would be easiest, because she works under Yagura, and even Kurotsuchi's cells can be obtained with relative ease, as she is just a child at this point. Both of them have good potential, as both of them became the Kage of their respective villages in the canon. But even if that's the case, Kuroto is a little hesitant in using either of their cells, the reason being that both of them are females. Because both of them are females, so there is a good chance that the gender of the Earth clone will also turn into a female, which is not what Kuroto wants. While Roshi is already an old man, so his cells wouldn't have that vitality, and as for Dodai, his feats are not impressive enough, so he was rejected at first thought. With all 4 options having one or the other problem, Kuroto is not sure which one of them should he use, and thought of the second Kekkei Genkai. The second Kekkei Genkai that came to Kuroto's mind is the Explosion Release. Explosion Release is the result of the fusion of Earth Chakra nature and Lightning Chakra nature, and it allows users to create explosions. There are 2 users of Explosion Release that come to Kuroto's mind, Deidara and Gari, and both of them have their unique method of using this Kekkei Genkai. Deidara uses explosion release through his art, while Gari releases explosions from his hands. Both of them are good options, and Kuroto can use either of their cells without any worry of old age or gender alteration. But in regards to explosion release, Kuroto is not quite sure because mastering Keki Genkai is just a step in his plan for the Earth-Nature clone. According to his plans for the Earth-Nature clone, Kuroto is aiming for dust release, so he is not certain if he should choose explosion release, which has almost nothing to do with dust release. Dust release, the result of the fusion of earth, fire, and wind, chakra natures, is the only known Keke Tota in the shinobi world. It is a very powerful and dangerous ability, as it is capable of disintegrating anything that comes in contact with it at a molecular level. So, dust release is undoubtedly a very good option, and mastering this Keke Tota will make the strength of the Earth Chakra Nature clone very high. Now, if mastering the dust release is the goal, naturally, Onoki's cells should be the first choice, and speaking from a certain perspective, his cells are the best option, because without a doubt, at this point in time, the current Tsuchikage Onoki is the strongest representative of the Earth Chakra nature. But using his cells has the very same problem as using Madara's or Roshi's cells. Onoki is quite old, so his cells wouldn't have that vitality. As such, Kuroto is a little hesitant in using Onoki's cells. But Kuroto is not worried in this regard, because dust release is somewhat different in this regard and has its own advantage. The thing about dust release is that both Nidaime Tsuchikage and Sandaime Tsuchikage mastered it, while neither Onoki's son Kitsuchi nor his granddaughter Kurotsuchi's has shown any signs of mastering dust release, which means dust release is a Keke Tota that can be learned and doesn't necessarily need to be inherited genetically. So, there is a solid chance that Kuroto can learn dust release even if he chooses not to use Onoki's cells for creating the Earth Chakra Nature clone. One more thing that Kuroto thinks is very important to learn dust release is mastering lava release. Although he doesn't have any solid proof about this, he still thinks that mastery over lava release will make learning dust release relatively easy, as Onoki can also use lava release. What to do? Thought Kuroto with a troubled expression. As he was thinking as to whose cells should he use for the Earth Chakra Nature clone, suddenly he had an idea, and the bulb lit up. Wait, why don't I try to do that? With that, Kuroto had a plan in mind. Yes, that's it. I know what to do, and quickly made his way home. Upon returning home, Kuroto quickly noticed an extra plant with several bamboo presents on the lawn that wasn't supposed to be there. And the strange thing is, this plant was outside the range of the perception barrier covering his house. With a frowned expression and his Byakugan activated, Kuroto looked at the plant and quickly realized that one of the bamboo grasses contained a piece of parchment inside it. Curious, Kuroto took out that piece of parchment and took a look only to find that it was a map of the Land of Fire, and a particular position was marked red. After remembering that position, Kuroto quickly destroyed the map and smiled slightly. Contact from Akatsuki, huh? It's only been a few days and Obito is already asking for information. It seems he is quite impatient. As for how this piece of parchment made its way inside that bamboo grass, this isn't such a big mystery. It was naturally the work of White Zetsu, or probably his clones. Since Kuroto is acting as Obito's spy, so he has also given the key of Konoha's perception barrier to Obito. As such, it wasn't surprising that Zetsu or his clones were able to get through without alerting anyone. The reason why Kuroto went as far as to give the key of the perception barrier to Obito is also quite simple. With Obito's strength, and he's mean, he can easily obtain this information after capturing any Anbu. Doing so would be a piece of cake for him. So to make sure that Obito doesn't lay his hands on any Anbu, Kuroto directly told this information to Obito. Of course, this wasn't the only reason. Telling this information to Obito had one more advantage. It made Obito think that he is in the dominant position, as Kuroto has already betrayed Konoha, and Obito can always use this information to pressurize Kuroto. Anyway, now that he has a location that he needs to go to, Kuroto quickly sneaked out of the Konoha village and made his way towards a dense forest, which is the location that was marked on the map. After discovering that no one was present in the immediate vicinity, and only a clone of White Zetsu was hidden several hundred meters away, Kuroto shook his head with a chuckle, then dropped the scroll on one of the trees and quickly left the forest. A long time after Kuroto had disappeared, the clone of White Zetsu that was hidden far away made his way out of the ground, and after picking up the scroll, he sank back into the ground. At the same time, a similar scene happened a few miles away, where instead of Hyuga Kuroto, Uchiha Itachi, upon receiving the call, came to deliver his findings. Similar to Kuroto, Itachi too did not find anyone in the immediate vicinity, so all he did was drop the scroll that he brought with him and then quickly left the forest. After Itachi disappeared, the scroll was then picked up by another clone of White Zetsu, who also sank back into the ground.